The city hummed a low, growling song, even at this late hour. Ethan pushed open the heavy door of the den, and the song exploded into a full-blown roar. Music thumped like a giant heart. Lights flashed in blues and reds, and the air smelled of spilled beer and a dozen different perfumes. He squeezed past laughing groups and dancing bodies, feeling a familiar tug of loneliness despite all the noise. He had come out tonight hoping for something, though he wasn't sure what. Maybe just a friendly face, a good conversation, a break from the quiet of his own apartment. He spotted a small, empty corner near the back, a little island away from the main storm of people. It wasn't perfect, but it was a place to stand and breathe. He nodded to the bartender, a woman with bright pink hair, and ordered a simple whiskey. As he waited, he watched the crowd, a river of strangers flowing around him. Some looked happy, some looked lost, some just looked like they were trying to forget. Ethan took a sip of his drink, the warm liquid spreading through him. He felt a little less lonely now, a tiny spark of hope flickering in the smoky air. The night was still young, and anything could happen. Ethan leaned against the cool brick wall, his whiskey glass feeling heavy in his hand. The pink-haired bartender had given him a quick, friendly wink before moving on to the next thirsty face. From his quiet spot, Ethan had a good view of the whole place. A group of women near the dance floor shrieked with laughter, their dresses sparkling under the lights. A few older men sat hunched at the main bar, looking like they'd seen 1,000 nights just like this one. He watched a couple dancing too close, their faces hidden from view, but their bodies telling a clear story. Then, his eyes landed on a man standing alone by the pool table, idly running his hand over the green felt. The man had dark, messy hair and a leather jacket that looked well-loved. He wasn't looking at anyone in particular, just observing, much like Ethan himself. There was something about him, a quiet strength, a hint of a smile playing on his lips even when he wasn't talking. Ethan found himself wondering what kind of story that man carried. He took another slow sip, the whiskey warming his throat. The noise of the bar felt less overwhelming now, almost like a cozy blanket wrapping around him. He wasn't actively looking for someone to talk to, but he wasn't against it either. He just let his gaze drift, taking it all in. Ethan was still watching the man by the pool table when a voice, smooth and low, cut through the bar's rumble. Lost in thought, or just enjoying the show, he turned, a little startled, to find a man from the pool table standing right beside him. Up close, his eyes were a startling shade of green, and the hint of a smile was now a full, easy grin. "A bit of both, I guess," Ethan replied, feeling a blush creep up his neck. "Ryan," the man said, offering a hand. His grip was firm and warm. "And you are?" "Ethan." He shook Ryan's hand, a small current running between them. "Ethan," Ryan repeated, his voice lingering on the name. "Mind if I join you in this quiet little corner?" He didn't wait for an answer, just leaned against the wall next to Ethan, making the space feel suddenly smaller. "This place is a madhouse tonight, isn't it?" "Always is," Ethan agreed, feeling a strange mix of nerves and excitement. Ryan's presence was strong, like a warm fire. "But sometimes," Ryan continued, his green eyes sparkling, "the best stories start in the loudest places." He turned his body slightly, now facing Ethan fully, his gaze intense. "So, what's your story, Ethan? Or, more importantly, what kind of story are you hoping to find tonight?" His voice dropped to a near whisper, making the loud music around them seem to fade away. It wasn't just a friendly chat anymore. It felt like a dare. Ethan felt a nervous flutter in his stomach, but he met Ryan's intense gaze. "Maybe a story with a good twist," he said, a small smile playing on his lips. "Something unexpected." Ryan chuckled, a low, pleasant sound. "Unexpected is my favorite kind of story." He then waved to the pink-haired bartender, ordering 2 more drinks. They talked about silly things at first, the awful DJ, the sticky floor, the strange art on the walls. But soon, their words grew deeper. Ryan told Ethan about his travels, about seeing different parts of the world. Ethan shared bits about his quiet life, his love for old books, and his dreams of trying new things. They found themselves laughing easily, the sound blending with the bar's music. Each time their eyes met, a spark seemed to jump between them, making the air feel thick and warm. Ryan's hand brushed Ethan's arm once, just for a second, and a shiver went down Ethan's spine. It wasn't just friendly anymore. There was a pull, a silent understanding that something special was happening. The noise of the bar, which had felt so loud before, now seemed to fade into the background, leaving only their voices and the growing connection between them. Ethan felt a lightness he hadn't known in a long time, a feeling that the night was indeed holding something truly unexpected. The bar's energy felt different now, buzzing with a promise Ethan hadn't felt in ages. He found himself leaning closer to Ryan, drawn in by his stories and the playful glint in his green eyes. Another round of drinks arrived, and Ethan felt a comfortable warmth spreading through him, not just from the whiskey, but from Ryan's presence. "You know," Ethan said a little breathlessly, "I really need to step away for a minute. Bathroom break." Ryan's smile widened, a mischievous sparkle dancing in his eyes. "Don't be long, then. You wouldn't want to miss the next chapter of our story, would you?" Ethan chuckled, feeling a thrill at Ryan's words. "Wouldn't dream of it." He stood up, feeling a bit wobbly from the drinks and the sudden rush of excitement. The air between them felt thick, charged with something unspoken. He gave Ryan a quick, lingering look, a silent promise in his eyes, before turning to weave his way through the crowd towards the back of the bar. The bathroom was usually dimly lit and mostly empty, a small escape from the loud music and bright lights. He looked forward to a moment of quiet, to let his mind catch up with the fast pace of his heart. He just hoped Ryan would still be there when he got back. Ethan moved through the crowd, a warm buzz from the drinks and Ryan's attention making his steps feel light. He pushed past a group singing loudly, their arms linked, and then past a couple locked in a deep kiss. His mind was still replaying Ryan's words, his teasing smile. He felt a happy flutter in his chest, a sense of adventure blooming. He didn't notice the shadow that detached itself from the wall where they had been talking. He didn't see the quick, knowing glance Ryan gave their empty corner, nor the playful, almost hungry look in his green eyes as he started to follow. Ryan moved with a quiet grace, weaving through the same maze of people, keeping just enough distance so Ethan wouldn't spot him. The loud music and flashing lights acted as a perfect screen, hiding Ryan's movements. Ethan reached the bathroom door, a heavy, dark wood slab. He pushed it open, stepping into the sudden quiet and dim light. The contrast was a welcome relief from the bar's wild energy. He leaned against the sink for a moment, letting out a soft sigh, thinking about Ryan. He splashed some cool water on his face, trying to clear his head a little. The reflection in the mirror showed a slightly flushed face, eyes bright with an unfamiliar excitement. He was ready to go back, ready for whatever came next. He still didn't realize he wasn't alone. Ethan finished splashing water on his face, feeling refreshed and ready to return to the lively bar and, more importantly, to Ryan. He reached for a paper towel, his mind still happily replaying the earlier conversation. The dim light of the bathroom was a welcome break from the flashing lights outside, and the quiet was a sweet relief from the booming music. Just as he was about to turn from the sink, a soft click echoed in the small space. It was a sound that shouldn't have been there, a sound that cut through the faint thrum of the bar's base. Ethan froze, his hands still damp from the water. His heart gave a sudden, hard thump against his ribs. He wasn't alone. He slowly turned his head, his eyes widening as they landed on Ryan. Ryan was standing just inside the door, his back against it, his hand still on the lock. The mischievous sparkle in his green eyes was now brighter, sharper, like a challenge. He wasn't smiling a wide, friendly smile anymore. It was a tight, knowing grin that made Ethan's breath catch. The small room suddenly felt much smaller, the air thick with something new and exciting, but also a little scary. The soft click of the lock seemed to echo in the sudden silence of Ethan's mind, sealing them both inside. Ethan's heart pounded, a loud drum in the sudden quiet of the bathroom. The sight of Ryan, so close and unexpected, made his stomach flip. Ryan's green eyes seemed to hold a secret, and the locked door felt heavy behind him. "Ryan." Ethan's voice came out as a surprised whisper, a little shaky. He quickly scanned the small room, as if looking for an escape, but there was nowhere to go. "What are you doing here?" His voice grew a little stronger, though still full of surprise. "And why did you lock the door?" Ryan didn't move from his spot by the door. His grin widened, not in a friendly way, but like a cat who had caught a mouse. He just looked at Ethan, letting the question hang in the air between them. The bar's thumping music felt far away, like a dream. Here, in this tiny space, it was just them. The air grew thick, suddenly warm, almost hot. Ethan could feel his cheeks flushing, a mix of embarrassment and something else, something dangerous and thrilling. He tried to take a step back, but he was already up against the sink, leaving him nowhere to go. He swallowed hard, waiting for Ryan to speak, his mind racing with possibilities, each one wilder than the last. Ethan waited, his heart thumping like a trapped bird. Ryan's silence was louder than any answer could have been. The air in the bathroom seemed to shimmer with unspoken words, with a daring energy that made Ethan's skin prickle. He wanted to demand an answer again, to push past the strange tension, but he couldn't. He was frozen, caught in Ryan's intense green gaze. Then, Ryan took a slow step forward, then another, closing the small distance between them. Ethan's eyes widened, a tiny gasp catching in his throat. He felt a light touch on his chest, not harsh, but firm enough to guide him. Ryan's hand pressed gently, steadily, and Ethan found himself moving backward, away from the sink. His back met the cool, hard surface of the mirror with a soft thud. The mirror felt cold against his warm skin, a sharp contrast to the sudden heat rising in his body. Ryan was now very close, his body almost touching Ethan's. The smell of his leather jacket and a hint of something fresh, like pine, filled Ethan's nose. Ethan could see his own reflection in the mirror behind him, his face a little pale, eyes wide and questioning. But all he could really focus on was Ryan, his face serious now, no longer just playful. The small bathroom was no longer just a place to wash hands. It was a cage, a secret space just for them. The cool glass of the mirror felt like a thin barrier against the sudden heat that flared between Ethan and Ryan. The small bathroom, meant for one person, now felt incredibly cramped with both of them. Ryan was so close that Ethan could feel the warmth radiating from his body, the soft brush of his jacket sleeve against his own arm. Every breath Ethan took was filled with Ryan's scent, a mix of leather, pine, and something uniquely his own, something thrilling. The air in the tiny room grew thick, almost heavy, as if all the oxygen had been used up by the unspoken tension. It was warm, too, a different kind of warmth than the crowded bar outside. This was a personal heat, a closeness that made Ethan's skin tingle. He could hear the faint thumping of the bass from the club, but it was muffled, far away, like a heartbeat from another world. Here, in this little box, the only sounds were their breathing, a little fast, a little shaky. Ethan's mind raced, a jumble of fear and excitement. This was bold, so incredibly bold, and completely unexpected. He felt trapped, but a part of him, a wild, secret part, was buzzing with a strange pleasure. The bathroom was no longer just a bathroom. It was a small, hot secret, holding them both captive in its dim light. Ethan's breath hitched as Ryan leaned in, closing the last bit of space between them. Ryan's lips were so close to Ethan's ear that he could feel the soft warmth of his breath, sending shivers down his neck. The scent of pine and leather grew stronger, wrapping around Ethan like a warm blanket, even as his body felt a jolt of alarm. "You said you wanted a story with a good twist, Ethan," Ryan whispered, his voice a low, rough rumble that made the small hairs on Ethan's arm stand up. It wasn't a question. It was a statement, full of knowing. Something unexpected. Then, his voice dropped even lower, becoming a dark, teasing murmur. "Did you expect this, though? To be caught, right here? Alone with me?" Ryan's words were like tiny sparks, igniting a strange fire deep inside Ethan. There was a challenge in his tone, a playful danger that made Ethan's heart race even faster. He felt a blush creep up his neck and spread across his cheeks. The whisper was soft, yet it felt loud in the quiet room, filling every corner. It was a secret shared, a dare thrown, and Ethan found himself suddenly unable to move, held captive by the words and the closeness. Ryan's words, hot against his ear, sent a jolt right through Ethan. His heart was hammering, a frantic drum against his ribs, loud enough that he was sure Ryan could feel it too. It was a dizzying mix of feelings. A tiny part of him screamed danger, a small, cold knot of fear tightening in his stomach. This was too much, too fast, too bold. He should push Ryan away, demand to be let out, return to the safety of the loud, crowded bar. But then there was the other part, the wilder part, that hummed with a thrilling, almost breathless excitement. Ryan's boldness wasn't scary in the way a dark alley was scary. It was scary like standing on the edge of a tall cliff, knowing you could fall, but also wanting to jump. The warmth of Ryan's body, the dark scent, the challenging words, they all wrapped around Ethan, pulling him deeper into this unexpected moment. His cheeks burned, not just from embarrassment, but from a rising heat that felt good, almost too good. He couldn't speak, couldn't even think clearly. All he could do was feel the fast beat of his heart, the cool mirror against his back, and the intense, dangerous pull of Ryan. It was a game, and he was suddenly, thrillingly, caught right in the middle of it. The words Ryan had whispered didn't just stay in Ethan's ear. They sank deep inside him, hitting something that had been quiet for a long time. It was like a spark dropped on a dry kindling. A sudden, intense heat bloomed in his stomach, spreading quickly through his chest and down his limbs. It wasn't just a blush anymore. It was a deep, burning warmth, like a fire starting right inside him. His skin felt alive, tingling everywhere Ryan was close. The cool mirror at his back now felt like a strange comfort against the fierce heat that was building up. He could barely breathe, not from fear, but from the sheer force of this new, wild feeling. Every nerve ending seemed to wake up, screaming with a mix of alarm and a hungry desire. This was the unexpected he'd wished for, but it was far more powerful, more consuming than he could have ever imagined. Ryan's presence, his scent, his teasing words, they were all fuel to this inner fire. It was a rush, a powerful wave washing over him, making his head spin. He felt his body wanting to lean into Ryan, to melt into the heat, even as his mind struggled to keep up. This wasn't just excitement. It was a primal urge, a deep, hot longing that made him feel completely alive and utterly out of control. The fire inside Ethan raged, making it hard to think. His mind was a battlefield, two strong forces pulling him in different ways. One voice, small and scared, screamed at him to push Ryan away, to break free from this tight, hot space. It told him this was too much, too fast, too dangerous. It reminded him of all the rules, all the quiet ways he usually lived his life. His hands clenched at his sides, wanting to push to create distance. But then there was the other voice, louder and more urgent, fueled by the burning heat in his body. It whispered about the thrill of the unknown, the wild freedom of letting go. It pointed to the spark in Ryan's eyes, the daring curve of his lips, and made Ethan's body ache with a deep, hungry longing. This voice wanted to lean in, to feel more, to explore the dangerous edge Ryan was offering. He felt a strange weakness in his knees, a desire to simply melt into Ryan's touch. He was caught in the middle, frozen between wanting to run and wanting to dive headfirst into the fire. His eyes, wide and unsure, searched Ryan's face, looking for an answer, a sign, anything to tell him what to do. But Ryan just watched him, a silent dare in his green eyes, leaving the choice entirely up to Ethan. As Ethan wrestled with his warring feelings, a strange thing happened. The loud, thumping music that had been the background to the entire night, the roar of the crowd, the clinking of glasses, all of it began to fade. It wasn't that the sound stopped, but in his mind, it simply grew softer, more distant, like a radio being turned down very slowly. The bar outside, with all its wild energy, seemed to become a blurry memory. Now, in the small, hot space of the bathroom, the only sounds that truly mattered were the ones right next to him. He could hear the soft, almost silent brush of Ryan's jacket against his own shirt. More than that, he could hear Ryan's breathing, steady and deep, a calming rhythm that somehow made the chaos in Ethan's own mind a little less loud. And beneath that, he could hear his own breath, quick and shallow, a clear sign of how fast his heart was beating. It was as if the world outside had disappeared, leaving only this tiny, secret bubble where only he and Ryan existed. The silence wasn't truly silent, but it was a silence from everything but them. Every small sound Ryan made, every soft intake of breath, felt magnified, pulling Ethan's focus even deeper into the moment. The bar's grit and noise had been replaced by a raw, intense quiet, where every feeling was sharpened, every touch more profound. The fading sounds of the bar only made Ryan's presence more powerful. He watched Ethan's face, seeing the quick rise and fall of his chest, the wide, unsure look in his eyes, the faint flush on his cheeks. A slow, knowing smile spread across Ryan's lips. It wasn't the playful grin from before, nor the challenging one when he'd locked the door. This was a deeper smile, one that held triumph and a hint of something tender. He knew Ethan's heart was racing, not just from fear, but from the same thrilling heat that hummed between them. He could feel the tension in Ethan's body, the struggle, and he knew that beneath it all, Ethan was feeling something strong, something real. Ryan's green eyes, still intense, softened just a little, showing a touch of satisfaction. He had Ethan's full attention, completely and utterly. There was no escape from this moment, not for Ethan and not for Ryan either. The silence of the bathroom, broken only by their breaths, was a canvas for their unspoken feelings. Ryan didn't need words to confirm what he saw in Ethan's eyes, what he felt in the charged air. He had wanted to awaken this wildness, this confusion, this desire, and he had. His smile deepened, a silent promise hanging in the air. Ryan's knowing smile was like a key turning in a lock, unlocking something deep inside Ethan. The fear that had been a tight knot in his stomach began to loosen, not disappearing, but changing. It mixed with a fiery excitement, creating a strange, dizzying feeling. Ethan felt a powerful pull towards Ryan, like a magnet drawing metal. It was a sensation of losing control, of his own will slipping away, but it wasn't a bad feeling at all. Instead, it was like floating, like being carried by a strong current. His thoughts, usually so neat and orderly, scattered like leaves in a windstorm. He wasn't thinking about the consequences or what he should do. He was just feeling the raw, pulsing energy of Ryan's closeness, the warmth, the daring in his eyes. It was all consuming. A part of him, the quiet, careful part, might have been screaming, but the louder, wilder part was humming with a strange, dark joy. This loss of control felt like a dangerous freedom. It was new, thrilling, and utterly unlike anything Ethan had ever known. He let his eyes drift over Ryan's face, memorizing the sharp line of his jaw, the way his dark hair fell across his forehead. He was falling, and the fall felt exhilarating. Time seemed to stretch and bend in the small, hot bathroom. The moment hung heavy in the air, thick with all the words that weren't being said. Ethan could feel the pulse in his neck, a frantic beat that mirrored the wildness in his chest. He looked into Ryan's green eyes and saw not just challenge, but a deep understanding, a shared secret that bound them together in this tiny space. Ryan didn't move, didn't speak another word. He just held Ethan's gaze, letting the powerful feelings between them do all the talking. It was a silent conversation, louder and more honest than any spoken words could have been. Ethan felt the raw desire, the thrilling fear, the unexpected joy of this dangerous dance. Every breath, every shift of weight, every flicker in their eyes was a part of this unspoken story. The air throbbed with a raw, electric energy. It was a moment full of questions without answers, of desires without names. Ethan felt like he was standing on the edge of something huge, something life-changing, and the only thing holding him back was his own breath. He was completely lost in Ryan's presence, in the intense, unspoken language they were sharing. The world outside the bathroom ceased to exist. There was only this moment, full of powerful, dangerous beauty. The stretched moment, thick with unspoken desires, pressed in on Ethan. His heart pounded, a frantic drum urging him to choose. The rational part of his mind, the one that usually kept him safe and quiet, screamed at him to push Ryan away, to break the spell. He could still do it. He could put his hands on Ryan's chest, firmly, and demand to be let out. He could go back to the bar, pretend this never happened, and try to forget the taste of danger. But then, the heat inside him surged, a powerful wave that drowned out the careful voice. He looked at Ryan's eyes again, seeing the unwavering challenge, the silent question. This was the unexpected twist he'd wished for, the wild story he'd been craving. It was scary, yes, but it was also incredibly thrilling, a chance to step outside his own safe world. He felt a deep, almost desperate urge to give in, to lean into the fire that Ryan had started. His hands, which had been clenched at his sides, slowly began to relax. A tiny, almost invisible movement, but it was a choice. He didn't push. Instead, his gaze dropped from Ryan's eyes to his lips, then back up again, a silent answer forming in his mind. The decision was made, not with words, but with a silent, trembling acceptance of the powerful pull. He was choosing the unknown, choosing Ryan's dangerous invitation. Ethan's silent choice hung in the air, a fragile bridge between his old self and the thrilling unknown. He didn't move to push Ryan away. Instead, he simply met Ryan's intense gaze, his own eyes wide with a mixture of surrender and a fierce, burning curiosity. The heat between them intensified, a silent promise hanging in the cramped space. Ryan's lips curved into a slow, satisfied smile, a quiet acknowledgement of Ethan's decision. He didn't speak, didn't press closer, but the unspoken words were louder than any shout. He had offered a dare, and Ethan had accepted. The bathroom door, with its simple lock, remained shut, a solid barrier between their private world and the loud, pulsing bar outside. The moment stretched, full of endless possibilities. What would happen next? A kiss? More whispered words? A deeper dive into the dangerous dance they had begun? Ethan's mind spun with questions, but for now, he was content to simply exist in this charged space, lost in the powerful feelings that swirled around him. The story of Ethan and Ryan, strangers who met in a bar, was just beginning, and its next chapter was a delicious, thrilling mystery, locked away with them behind that heavy wooden door.